Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition and the short list for the new design lead for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. All right, okay, so let's talk about it. All right, so who's the design lead today? The lead designer for Dungeons & Dragons is Mike Mearls. Mike Mearls is a really fascinating guy. He saved the game from 4th Edition. 4th Edition was an absolute debacle. It did not go well. It's one of the most poorly received editions in the game's history, without a doubt. Without a doubt. No matter what you think about 4th Edition, it is by far the most least successful edition of the game. No two ways about it, okay? So, and when it was done, literally like half the Dungeons & Dragons community was gone. And Mike Mearls came back and fixed it, right? He fixed the 4th edition break, right? And he made 5th edition a wildly successful version of the game, much better than 4th edition, and arguably better than 3rd and better than 2nd, okay? People could debate that, but nobody could debate that 5th has absolutely surpassed at every level 4th edition. And patched over completely, like fixed the foundational issues. 4th edition was so bad it threatened the future of the game, right? From a purely marketing perspective, I like the rules design of 4th edition. I really had no beef with 4th edition, but from a marketing perspective, from a success perspective, from the owners of the Wizards of the Coast perspective, 4th edition was a mess, right? It did not accomplish the goals they were hoping, right? So basically, 5th edition came out in 2014, okay? It's been out for coming up on 7 years, all right? And Mike Mearls has been the design lead for Dungeons & Dragons for close to 7 years, okay? And that means I would not be surprised if there's going to be named a new design lead within 1 to 3 years, okay? Now, before I go any further, I have to own my previous mistakes. So I have already said publicly that I thought the next design lead for Dungeons & Dragons would be, without a doubt, Kate Welch. Okay, Kate Welch was brought in 2018. At the beginning of 2018, she went through Q2 of 2020, and then she was out. So she didn't even get 3 years in, okay? When she was brought in, it seemed incredibly obvious to me that Kate Welch was brought in to be the new design lead for Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, right? Now, I do think the incredibly unusual event that happened in March of 2020 that changed the shape of the world and changed exactly where everybody was going to be going and not going for the next 18 months really changed Dungeons & Dragons history, just like every other American element, and really half the elements on the planet, right? So it made major changes. So I think that's probably going to push out the 6th edition change. I wouldn't be expecting, what do you do with 6th edition, right? You announce it at Gen Con or you announce it at Origins, right? Those conventions aren't even happening, right? So like, I highly doubt we're going to see any kind of announcement in 2021, and I think the earliest you could see an announcement for 6th edition be 2022. Okay, so with that said, who is going to be? But I do think you could see a new design lead for Dungeons & Dragons. Okay, why is that? Why would they get rid of Mike Mearls? Well, 7 years is a long time in today. Okay, back in the day, you could have design leads forever, but the reality is, I don't think any design lead has been longer than 7 years. Honestly, I think Gary Gygax was only design lead for like 10 years, right? So it 100% makes sense that there would be a design lead change just from a timing perspective alone within the 5th edition time, right? The other thing is Mike Mearls has had some problems as far as the public face of the game. There's people who have said, hey, you mishandled this, you mishandled that, you mishandled X, you mishandled Y, you mishandled Z, right? So for those reasons as well, that would help the idea that a new design lead could come in on Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. So I think a new design lead will be, there will be 2 design leads on 5th edition, right? There'll be Mike Merles, followed by the shortlist candidate, right? By a shortlist candidate. So I have to say, flat out, I was 100% wrong. Kate Welch was not the design lead. She's gone now. She's no longer at Wizards of the Coast. She came from video games. She came over. She was here for 3 years. She did some writing on some books. She did some editing. She helped promote the game, and then she was gone, right? She came from video games. She left the video games. Quick as that, right? And I would love to know the reason why. I have some ideas on why that happened, but I don't have any evidence. So I'm not gonna say, what I think happened, or, because you should have facts to back up what you're saying, right? So, but I also do really hope that Kate Welch does well back in the video game industry, and I don't think there's a reason in the world she shouldn't, right? I think she should be able to return to that industry. I am sad that Kate Welch left. I think she. Am I sad that Kate Welch left? You know what? Here's. I think Kate Welch was positioned well to be the first female design lead for Dungeons and Dragons ever, right? I would like there to be a female design lead for Dungeons and Dragons for 6th edition or for the end of 5th edition, okay? And right now, I think the leaving of Kate Welch is a huge problem. It's a huge problem because it really threatens the idea that there will be a female design lead for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition or 6th edition, because I'm not sure who they would pick. I'm not sure there's a lot of great candidates out there. Please correct me if I'm wrong, right? A great candidate is a female tabletop role-playing designer who has written a book that is 250 to 350 pages long that gets sold on the shelves of Barnes & Noble, right? That, like, Zweihander right now, that's the bar for modern tabletop role-playing game design. I don't think anybody's done a better job of creating a modern tabletop role-playing game design, making a tabletop role-playing game design, and making it available to the masses on Amazon and in Barnes & Noble, in brick-and-mortar stores. And that's important because Dungeons & Dragons' prime product is real physical books, and those are still sold in real physical bookstores. And Barnes & Noble is the last remaining chain, and I feel like that is a good bar to say, yeah, you could do it. You could create a tabletop role-playing game, and you could sell it on Amazon, you could sell it in FLGS's, you could sell it in Barnes & Noble, right? That's a good bar. And that bar has been met by the author of Zweihander, right? And by multiple other authors. But to my knowledge, not a single female tabletop role-playing game designer has ever met that bar, right? And I would be delighted to be wrong. Please let me know if I'm wrong. I don't think I am. I don't miss new tabletop role-playing games, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why you're going to have a very hard time. Now, actually, by the way, Kate Welch had not met that bar, but what she had done is she had been mentored for 3 years to be design lead, right? In my opinion, right? So I think it's a huge problem. So who is on the short list to be the Dungeons & Dragons design lead, right? Guess what? You know the name. You know who it is. Matthew Mercer, right? All right, I hear you. You're like, wait, Scott. Matthew Mercer is a successful voice actor. He's got his own career. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't need to be Dungeons & Dragons design lead. And frankly, that would be a demotion. No, it would not, right? So let's talk about it. Why would Matthew Mercer want this job? So for one, trust and believe this would be a pay cut, okay? If he took this job as design lead for Dungeons & Dragons, he would make far less money than he makes right now as the lead for... as the lead DM, lead promoter, lead champion of Critical Role, okay? Which is the most public, most successful Dungeons & Dragons public game that has ever existed in the history of the game, bar none, in the 46 years of history, okay? So why would he take a pay cut, give up doing voice acting for animated shows, give up doing voice acting for video games, and give up being the most prominent public champion of Dungeons & Dragons and make less money? Why would he do that? History. history. He would be Robert Hainsou, okay? Gary Gygax, Mike Merles. Those are the three I can remember off the top of my head. Maybe I don't think Moldve was actually a design lead. There are quite a few design. Those are the three prominent ones I can remember right now. And those are the ones who, like, Robert Hainsou was in there in 3rd edition. Gary Gygax will always be synonymous with the game, and Mike Merles is the champion who restored the game and protected the game and made sure the game didn't disappear. Right? There are some other people in there, and they are historically important. And I think a lot of D&D wonks would be able to name them for you. And I'm a little ashamed that I can't name them all, but once you become the D&D design lead, that is history. Okay, that is the U.S. president. That is history, right? There's only been 45 of them in a little over 200 years, right? Dungeons and Dragons, there's been less than 7. Okay, there's only been 7 design leads in the history of the game, right? It's a short list, right? And once you become and trust and believe, when I say history, that is real. Okay, Dungeons and Dragons is now being studied academically. It is being studied, and it is very much being studied at the industry level as well. Right? There are a lot of industries that are very, very hyper focused around Dungeons and Dragons and the history of the game. Video games, right? You can't spin around and throw a rock and hit somebody and say, "Tell me about the history of video games." And before they're done, giving you a summary of the history of video games, they will mention Dungeons and Dragons. There's so many aspects of Dungeons and Dragons that are foundational to video gaming, right? And so the other thing is tabletop role-playing games are an American. It's an element of Americana, right? So basically, just like jazz, right? Like the founders of jazz, the top performers of jazz, baseball, the founders of baseball, the top performers of baseball, right? These are elements of Coca-Cola, the creator of Coca-Cola, the CEOs of Coca-Cola. These are historical positions. When you have it, you are part of a rich history, and you will never be forgotten until that game is forgotten. And I'll tell you right now, I think that Dungeons & Dragons have a 500-year run. I don't think Dungeons & Dragons will be forgotten for at least 500 years, and it's possible. I think Dungeons & Dragons could easily retain a historical footprint in America and on this planet for the next three millennia. Okay? So history is the reason that he would give up his position because he was become a historical figure in American history. Right? D&D is part of America's history, and it truly is an incredible historical game, right? And I really think Matthew Mercer is on that short list. One, I think he's got a very good chance at getting the job. I really do. Okay. Two, I think he could do the job. I think he's serious about it. Like, he knows the rules. He knows what needs to go in there. I think he could do a really good job. I think he could definitely do a job. And I absolutely think he would be willing to actually get in there, throw his hat in the ring, and do the job, because it's important. It is historically important. So all that's my opinion. I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.